So this video is a follow on from last week's video. Last week was the topic was if you're feeling overwhelmed about starting decluttering, how can you get yourself going? So that was kind of more about the planning stage. So when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, where you're going to maybe make some changes, etc., and having that why instilled in you before you make a start. Now this video is shoveling you on a little bit more into the right, I'm just about a start stage. Where should I actually start decluttering? Because that can stump people, because you can have your why, you can understand why you're doing it, you can know what you're going to do with all your possessions afterwards, and you've got a plan in place for all that. But actually knowing where to start can be another stumbling block for people. So I wanted to do that as a separate video today. I alluded to some of it last week in last week's video, so if you've not watched that one, you can go back. But this one just to go into a little bit more detail. So let's make a start, and say ask any questions you've got as I go along. Hopefully they'll pop up and I'll see them, but if not, I'll come back and I'll answer them. And if there's any questions that involve a more in-depth answer, I can always do an extra video on that as well and pop on. It's just very frustrating I don't have the comments on. No, it's not letting me change anything either. Okay, so let's get started. So where to start decluttering? So one of the best ways to overcome feeling overwhelmed when you're decluttering is start by doing something, or start somewhere that feels easiest to you. So for example, if it feels really difficult and overwhelming, maybe looking at things that are from your kids' childhood, your childhood memorabilia, or any sentimental items. Sorry. I should have brought a drink with me, shouldn't I? Any sentimental items, anything like that, just stop. Don't even go to that space first. Try decluttering things that are going to feel easier. So try and pick areas that are it requires kind of fewer emotional decisions and more logical based decisions, rather than getting really stuck into the heavy stuff. Because a lot of people go, right, I really need to sort through X, Y, and Z, but actually it's going to take you longer, knock your motivation, and it's going to make you not want to do it if you start in that space. So try something like in your office drawer, or a kitchen drawer. I always say a good one is your bathroom cabinet. It all tends to be very transactional in there. Say the decisions are much more logical. There's no emotions involved. And should I keep this old verruca ointment? Like things like that. You don't have emotions necessarily attached to things in those locations, or even if it's your sock drawer, because you do get some kind of sentimental attachments to clothes, but I always find that tends to be towards dresses, or anything that someone may have bought you in the past, rather than socks perhaps. So think of somewhere in your home where your decisions are going to be less emotional, you're going to be less emotionally connected to stuff, and you can make those matter of fact decisions instead, and pick those. And decluttering and making decisions are skills that you're going to get better at the more you do them. When I started decluttering, it was difficult. I would try and find excuses to keep things. But the more you practice getting rid of things, the easier and less scary it becomes. Whereas now I don't really have any qualms about letting go of stuff, because I know actually nothing really happens. I've not regretted letting go of anything, because I think people do worry about that, like, if I let go of it, am I going to regret it? And personally, the people that I've helped as well, I've not heard of any of them going, oops, I shouldn't have got rid of that. It's about making the right decisions at the right time, getting rid of them, and the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. And as I say, now it's just, I don't even give it second thought when I'm eliminating stuff. So start practicing with the easier stuff first, and then you can move on to the more challenging spaces and categorize stuff based on where your emotional decisions are going to be. And it's going to feel much less overwhelming and much easier for you to get started. So that's the first one, is start somewhere easier for you that's less emotional. Then number two is start smaller. So it's another option if you're feeling overwhelmed, is to do it in really small steps. Now, I'm a fan of this whether you feel overwhelmed about decluttering or not. I think it really is the way to go, because if you just suddenly dive into the cupboard under the stairs or in your garage or in your loft, you're gonna make yourself a bit tired and a bit sick of it, and that is no way to get started on your decluttering journey. So for example, if you're going to declutter a big space but you feel completely overwhelmed on it, try thinking about starting on a smaller scale in that location. So you could, for example, if it is the cupboard under the stairs, maybe you pick one of the boxes under the cupboard under the stairs and don't do the whole amount. Or just start in a much smaller location. As I say, you could try the cutlery drawer, but try breaking it down into much smaller, manageable tasks that you can tackle one at a time. One drawer, one shelf, one box, one pile, rather than thinking it as a whole task. And the other way you can do it by doing small is by just cutting it down and doing a little bit of decluttering at a time. So instead of thinking of it as a small scale, right, I've got an IKEA unit. I mean, I'm a big fan of these units. I've got them all over my house, but it helps me keep things organised. And I have, not in this one in particular, but I've got the boxes that they can fit in as well. I would say I'll start with that one box. Or you could look at it as time, so time bursts. So try decluttering for 10-15 minutes a day. One of my biggest tips that I love to share with people is set a timer, because you're gamifying it for yourself. So tell yourself that you can stop as soon as the timer runs out. So set your timer on your phone, 10-15 minutes. And if you feel that you're on a roll, you want to continue, just get it done. That's fine. I'm not saying it's at that 10-minute stop, but it makes you, as I say, gamify it and try and get through it as quickly as possible. And 10 minutes usually feels manageable enough. You could even do like a habit stack. And if you were on my session in Holly Matthews' group on Friday, we talked about this, where you could attach it onto something that you're already doing. So you could say, right, while the kids are having breakfast in the morning, I'm going to spend 10 minutes decluttering this drawer. And then if you have got 5 drawers in your kitchen, and then you can get that done in the whole week and you've not even thought about it. So it's little things like that, doing little and often, and really make an impact. Number 3 is you could start with your biggest source of stress first. So it's another approach where you don't know where to start, is to really look at a space or a category of stuff that's causing you the most stress. And that might be because it's taking you more time to sort through stuff, or it's taking a lot of energy from you. It's kind of, and by energy I mean either physical energy by keeping up with it, or mental and emotional energy by knowing that it's there and knowing that you need to sort it out. So tackling that biggest area of stress first is going to make life that little bit easier for you, and that's going to free you up time and energy wise, rather than you managing that stuff all the time. And it's going to really make an impact on how you feel, which is good for you continuing your decluttering, but it's also going to make a bigger impact on how your home looks and feels as well, and it's going to just have a really positive impact. So for example, if you're really feeling overwhelmed by the kitchen, and the piles of dirty dishes you've got and you can't seem to keep up with them, and what I would do is start there. So go straight to your dishwasher, get it all sorted out, and put yourself in a little habit to just keep it going. So what we do in our house is that after we've ate on an evening, we set the dishwasher off. Then depending on what we're doing, we will either empty it before we go to bed or empty it as soon as we wake up in the morning. So then it's empty throughout the day, and then as we're going through the day, instead of chucking things in the sink and on the bench when they're finished, they go straight in the dishwasher. So therefore we've got no dishes hanging around the kitchen during the day, and then again, end of tea, we set it off, and then it's kind of that, because that was one of the biggest things for us, is that the kitchen used to just wind me up rotten, because would just, even when there was two of one, we didn't have any kids, there'd always be some backlog of dirty dishes, and it was really frustrating. So actually us getting into a little routine with that and making sure that we had the right things in place for that routine, it made it so much less stressful and less time consuming. It doesn't really, now if we're talking about putting the dishwasher on, it doesn't mean we're spending a good 20-30 minutes sorting it out. It's just something we do throughout the day. And again, if it's the kitchen as a whole, that just gives you the heebie-jeebies, just break the space down into little tasks. For example, you could do one drawer, one cupboard, or one shelf, again, that's in your kitchen to tackle it down. So have a little bit of a brainstorm, and see which areas of your home give you the most stress and overwhelm. Now, I'm going through each of these different techniques. You can pick, there's no kind of ideal way. It's much more about how you know it'll motivate you and the impact it'll have on you. So you can test them all out and see which you prefer. But I never kind of, the way I usually go is just starting small and doing things little and often, but that's because that's how I work. I like small little tasks, get them done, get them ticked off, and over time it's a kind of a positive, but you know what works for you. So as I'm going through these, just have a think about which could work for you the best. Next one is starting a high impact space. So something that is heavily used, or it's like a family hub, something that your family use often, and you want it to function better. So again, I come back to the kitchen here because it's kind of more for my household, but the kitchen is a bit of a hub for the family. You tend to be in and out of it most of the day, and it's pretty much the heart of the home. You cook, you eat, you gather, you play games in there, for example. But other examples, it could be your entryway, it could be the bathroom, family in and out there, constantly getting sorted for the day. If you're lucky enough to have a pantry, I would love to have a pantry. But something like that where you're in and out and it's heavily used day in, day out. That could be another option where you could start, because simplifying and clearing the clutter of the space that you use a lot, it's going to make a big impact again. These are, so you can go different ways. You can go little impact often, or you can do a bigger impact less frequently, and that is definitely this one. It's where you're going to appreciate the results of your hard work. You're going to see that work, the hard work, the benefits of the hard work right away, and you're going to feel those improvements and keep you inspired and motivated. So that's another one. I mean, for me, perhaps it would be the kitchen table. The girls are full of arts and crafts, and they do stuff all over the kitchen table during the day. That's where we eat. It gets very cluttered. So when I sort out the kitchen table, that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I can walk into the kitchen without feeling stressed. Another smaller option for you is starting a clutter sweep. So this is, I've got a 30-day decluttering challenge that I offer to people, and I can do that in this group actually if it's something you would be interested in. We could maybe do that at some point. But this is how I typically start, and that is doing a whole clutter sweep throughout your house. Bin liner, or grab a box. If you haven't got a box, something just like a laundry basket would be fab, and just go around each room in your house and just grab stuff that you no longer use, you no longer love, that you can go to the charity shop, that you've just been meaning to get rid of. Like, you know, those things you walk into a room and you're like, oh, like that's just there and I don't know why it's there. Just grab all those things, and it's a great way for you to see a big benefit. It's nice and quick because, again, you can set yourself a timer. You can say, right, 10 minutes, I'm going to spend 1 minute in each room, and I'm just going to grab loads of stuff that I think can go to the charity shop. Even have another bag for rubbish as well, or do them separately. Usually what I do, the order is do rubbish first and then do the clutter sweep. But it's a great way to remove easy surface clutter that's going to visually make a big difference, and it's going to make you feel quite excited to get started, because again, you're gamifying it, and also you're going to see the immediate benefits of it, because it typically is surface stuff. I'm not saying start rooting through your cupboards and your drawers. It's the stuff that you've got on shelves, on walls perhaps, things that are just in the room. I mean, like, I used to just have decorations for the hell of it. I don't know about you, but I used to go to places like Dunelm, and I'm like, oh, that's a nice ornament, I'll buy that. And I didn't really have a space for it. I just liked it, so I ended up buying it and just sticking it somewhere. I acquired a lot of stuff like that, and in the end, a lot of the stuff I just in a couple of years' time, I was like, I'm not really that bothered about it. It was just kind of an impulse buy. So I'm talking about things like that. Another option is decluttering big things first. So think about any of the big items that you've got in your home that you want to get rid of. So any large toys, unused exercise equipment, furniture. We did this because we had in my, I think I mentioned this in the last video, but I started in a very small 2-bed flat. And one of the things that we ended up doing was the second bedroom, because we didn't have kids at the time, was that it literally was just full of the furniture and all the stuff that we just didn't really have a space for, we didn't use, we just chucked it in this room. So one day we went through and we just got rid of all the big bits. There was an exercise bike in there was DVD cabinets, there was like loads of stuff that we'd just acquired over the time of moving in together, and we just going to wrap them all together. And some of the things we sold, like the exercise bike and things like that, but then some of them we just donated to a charity shop or took to the bric-a-brac place at the household waste place. And it made such a big difference, because pretty much we had a whole room free then. So again, this is more something that's more personal to you. If you know that you've got a space in your home that you have got big items that you want to get rid of, perhaps they're like big toys that your children used to play with, like baby toys tend to be quite bulky. Perhaps there's things like that you can gather, clean up and sell on a Facebook group, or donate to your neighbour who's just had a baby, for example. But taking those big items again makes a significant impact on the space quite quickly, and it's going to make it easier for you to make those decisions because of the size of them, because you'll have that decision, right, it's too big, am I going to use it or not? And typically it is a no if it's just been hanging around. Then the last one is just start. So that if you're feeling so overwhelmed with stuff and you feel stuck, let's say sometimes the easiest thing is to just start. Don't overthink it, don't overplan it, because I know I've talked about in these past 2 videos, plan about how you're going forward and decide what you're going to do with the stuff afterwards. I'm a big fan of planning that out because it makes it feel less overwhelming for you. But if that doesn't work for you as a person, because it doesn't, I'm not here to give you a set guidelines of say, right, you do it step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not here to do that, because everyone works differently, and when I work with clients, we try to work out how they tick first before diving into it. And if you don't like deadlines, if you don't like plans, and they give you the creeps and you don't work with them, just park it. Just don't do that. Just dive in and just start doing little and often, and just think about what can you declutter right now, and just take action, even if it's small. So just start doing one thing every day, and you'll start to see the progress, and then that little progress every day is going to result in a bigger impact over time. So hopefully that's given you some ideas. As I say, there's a mix of things there you can start depending on how you function as a human being. You can do little and often and start to see the benefits over time, or you can start off with bigger things to really have that big impact to motivate you moving forward, or you can just make a start and just dive straight in. that end one, I personally would suggest that you do have some kind of strategy moving forward. But if setting that strategy is stopping you from doing it, just start, because that is the most important thing. The most important thing is just to start getting it out. So you know what works best for you, and pick any of those options, or try a selection of them and see what you think. You could even do different strategies for different rooms. So say for that spare room that we had in our flat, we went for the bigger items first, because that was going to make it so much easier for us to progress with other things. Whereas when it came to places like the kitchen, I started little and often, just because it was quite overwhelming for me for the kitchen. So hopefully that was helpful to you. I've not seen any questions come up, so I'm so sorry if you've been chatting to me or asking questions, because I can't see them. But usually what happens is I'll end the video and then I'm able to see the comments. So if you've got anything, I'll be able to see it in there, and I'll come back and answer any questions. But yeah, let me know if you do have any questions or any suggestions of things that you have found that have worked for you, or that hasn't worked in the past. I'd love for you to share your experiences, and we can think about how we can move everyone forward with that. Next week I am back. I've set up a couple of events already of the things that we're going to do, but next week we're going to focus on how to stop impulse buying and shop more intentionally. So I think that is important to start quite early on in your decluttering journey, because there's no, I forget that saying, but it's something about the bath water and the taps on and the bath water. I can't remember, but you basically know what I mean. Is what I'm trying to say is there's no point in trying to get rid of the bath water if the tap's still on. So there's no point in you trying to get rid of all the stuff in your home if you continually keep bringing stuff in. So if shopping is something that you struggle with, impulse buying, ow, did you hear that? I just cracked my knuckle. That is one of the things I certainly struggled with, but I started to educate myself a lot on consumerism, impulse buying, and where that stemmed from, and how to shop more intentionally. And that's something that I do, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can start to shop more intentionally as well. So that'll be next week's video. Hopefully that will be of use to you. If you've got any suggestions or comments as to videos you want me to cover, just pop it in the group. I'd love to hear from you, and I can, because I've got a list of about 100 topics I want to do, but if there's something that you want to hear now, just shout and let me know. Anyway, so have a lovely rest of the day, rest of the week. Let me know if you've got any questions, and I'll see you in the group during the week. So take care. Bye bye.